Salem, New Jersey, but you and I go way back. We have a long history. We've known each other since, as I like to say, since my younger days when I had a shack. You know, as far as I would say. So it is truly an honor to be on your show. I'm truly blessed and honored to be here with your prestigious guest.
Thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and share Dr. Maiden's bio, and then we're going to jump right in feet first to this awesome discussion. Dr. Brian Maiden holds a PhD in counseling education as well as a master's degree in counseling education from Virginia Tech University, and earned his bachelor's degree in sociology from Morgan State University. He is a social alchemist and an associate professor at Virginia State University. Dr. Maiden is one of the co-founders of Alchemy in Coaching, an organization designed to provide innovative coaching to students, grade 6 through undergraduate, with a focus on student athletes and performers. Dr. Maiden has over 18 years of experience as a school counselor, and as a result of his efforts in the school and community, the Prince William Regional Counselors Association also selected him as the 2018 School Counselor of the Year. Dr. Maiden is also very active in his community. He is the primary researcher for Article 730, a holistically based program designed to help formerly incarcerated individuals reintegrate back into society. Additionally, Dr. Maiden has been involved in, developed, founded, and co-founded numerous programs purposed to provide marginalized students greater opportunities to be engaged in their high school experiences, including, but not limited to, the Takeover, a leadership organization for marginalized students, 12 Rounds Counseling, Martial Arts, and Boxing program to combat active gang recruitment taking place at the high school level in the city of Manassas, the Osborne High School Gay and Lesbian Straight Education Network, which was the first student organization at the high school to address the concerns of the gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and queer and or questioning student body. Dr. Maiden, welcome to House Talk.
Thank you very much. I know this week wraps up a month devoted to a myriad of topics on the hearts and minds of men and women, and I want to take a moment to encourage your listeners to go back and definitely listen to those past episodes. Very enlightening. We have an exciting show for you tonight, and of course we want to hear from you, the listening audience. To join the conversation or ask a question from one of our panelists, please call 515-605-9744. Again, that number is 515-605-9744. We look forward to hearing from you, but let's get started. Tonight's subject is supporting African American men, and we have an amazing panel joining us to discuss this topic. So please welcome our first panelist is going to be Dave Sempe. Dave was 19 years old and confined at a Correction Corporation of America facility, the first wave of prisons for profit. He was placed in a Youth Act program that kept him and others like him locked in a 6x9 cell for 8 months, 23 hours a day. There was a part of him that went into that box and never came out. Dave has talked about how he felt like Humpty Dumpty and was left to put himself back together again. 3 years, multiple arrests, 3 felony convictions later, and feeling mentally unhinged, he spiraled out of control. Through the course of 25 years, though, he has reconstructed his life, his mind piece by piece, and through practices of mindfulness and meditation, has made a broken mind unbreakable. These experiences have left Dave with an obligation to men and women alike to guide them out of their fractured state and back into balance. Dave formed Article 730, of which he brought me along, to act as a vessel that can guide returning citizens to a healthy life beyond their confinement. Welcome, Dave. Also like to welcome Dr. Malik Mohammed. Dr. Abdul Malik Mohammed has over 20 years serving both underserved youth and adults in urban and rural areas. He has focused his professional career on developing Black boys into men, establishing a progressive pedagogy for oppressed youth, and building progressive organizations. Dr. Mohammed also served as vice president of several educational, mental health, and human services operations in 8 states across the U.S. Through his work, he continues to diligently work towards transforming lives, one community at a time. Dr. Muhammad is also actively involved in several national and international organizations with a focus on Black and Latino youth. Dr. Muhammad holds an EDD in Education Leadership from the University of Delaware. Go Blue Hens. Welcome, Dr. Muhammad.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you.
And last but definitely not least, Ted Wright III. Ted Wright III serves as a small business consultant in the areas of legal and identity theft solutions with Legal Shield, the industry leader in individual and small business legal plan solutions. Now, Ted has been with Legal Shield for 15 years. He and his organization have serviced thousands of families and businesses nationwide with affordable legal access to protect, grow, and support their families and businesses. His goals are to enhance the lives of individuals and business owners by assuring they have affordable legal access to the justice system, which is very important in these times. Ted is committed to community and service to others. He's a graduate of Bowie State University. Love my HBCUs. Ted is married, has 4 children. He's a grandfather of 3, and Christ is the center of his life. Welcome, gentlemen. Let's go ahead and jump into it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, some men often say, the deck is stacked against me or my son. How can I help? How can I help my son navigate in the world today, driving while Black, owning a business while Black, basically just being Black while Black? Can you speak on that a little bit? What do we say to our sons? What do we say to ourselves, our friends?
Well, I'd like to, I can jump right into this. And, we had to, one of the things that I do with my sons, and I just happen to be the father of 2 sons, 133 and 125. And because they were exposed to a lot of things that I wasn't able to control what they were seeing every day and the things and places they were going, although I tried to direct them, I think that the thing, because we had an open line of communication, they could talk to me, and some of the things that they brought up, instead of me telling them it was totally wrong or whatever, we discussed it so they could get a different reference point. So I try to direct them to a different way to see it, and then put them in a position where they could make a decision, because a lot of them don't like to be told what to do. But if we can help encourage them by directing them toward the right answers and the truth, then generally they sometimes make the right decision that we want them to make, in a sense, without us having to actually tell them. So, I can kind of start with that.
Well said.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I just got online. This is Dave Sampay. How's everybody?
Hey, Dave, how are you?
All right.
Thank you for joining us, Dave. We're talking about basically what we would say to our sons, our relatives, our Black males, and ourselves who are dealing with being Black in America at this time. It's a very challenging time for us. It is a good thing that we are very strong people, but we're talking about what we would say, the conversations we would have with Black males.
So what consensus so far have we come to? I'd like to listen before I chime in.
Absolutely. We'll let Malik start, and then we'll circle back to you.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I was thinking about this, and I think what's important, the messages that we must give to our sons, the youth, young brothers, is we need to put it in historical context, right? So when we think about the writing of Du Bois in 1906 in The Souls of Black Folk, what he said was, between me and the world is an ever unasked question, unasked by some through feelings of delicacy, unasked by others by not knowing how to rightly frame it. But the question is always there, how does it feel to be a problem? And this is what Du Bois wrote 110 years ago, 113 years ago, and it still holds true now. So the challenges that our brothers are facing are not radically different than what we have faced since landing on the shores of North America. And so when we put it within that context, that while we carry the historical trauma and scars in our bodies and in our psyche, we are also built of something different, right? And so I think what we need to encourage our brothers to do is to make sure that they understand the line that they come from, and and that, what Will Smith said was, racism hasn't increased; it's just more videotaped, right? So there's more access, right, to see in our face some of the conditions that we're facing, and so I think it's also from our perspective. So giving that message to our boys, but also from our perspective, is to recognize that we are under particular type of parental stress. That is the intersection of racism and gender, and that puts a level of toxic stress on us. So making sure that as we give these messages to our boys, that we're not also communicating our own trauma, and really helping them to make sure that they instill a level of hope in themselves, in their future, and their brothers.
Not sure we're transmitting our own trauma. That's a challenge in itself.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to be aware of what we're transferring, what we're transmitting as well.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Dave, you want to build on that a little bit, Dave?
Well, most of my experiences, because I have my own son, and he's 11 years old, and he's having to maneuver through what it feels like to be young black in America. Mm-hmm. And, I preach to him, I could just go, I go to, just not recently, he wanted to wear a mask coming on Halloween, and I had to have that serious talk because he's a young boy coming of age. And in his mind, he sees nothing wrong with it. Just wanted to go outside, and it was right around Halloween time, and I had to just have that serious talk that, listen, you're coming of age. You're not, and to explain to him how he's viewed. And that was a hard talk to have, because I could see it in his eyes that, this was foreign to him. He didn't see himself as a black boy, or he just seen himself as a boy of no threat. Mm-hmm. And to have to break that down to him and see how, in a way, it diminished him. It diminished his sense of self. And I think that what we have to do, we have to explain that to them, but we have to be able to ride that fine line, even though we're telling them and preparing them for what they have to walk out to. But at the same time, still be able to give them that sense of self. So he can maneuver through the world and yet keep his head up and his chin up and still be proud of who he is and not let the world itself tear him down. And that is a careful balance of explaining, showing him, preparing him for the world that he's walking into, and yet not allowing it to tear him down. And, so I speak of a place that this is happening in my life in real time now. And so as much as I preach to him, I'm still looking for the answers, because I don't have them all. Because I'm looking at the new generation that lives right in my house. And I have to send him out into the world every day and hope that I'm preparing him, for what's coming.
Yes, sir.
Well, you definitely gave me something to think about. And did anyone see the movie The Hate You Give?
I haven't seen that one yet.
Okay. So in this movie, and it's a similar theme that we've seen before from Boys in the Hood, where you have a police officer shooting, a black male. And one of the things that resonated with me was the father teaching all of his kids that when the police pull you over, put your hands up on the dash. And a week after I saw that movie, I was riding out in a very country area in Virginia, and there was a cop who trailed me for about 4 miles. And all I kept thinking about was that scene. If he pulls you over, put your hands up. Put your hands up. I'm like, this is crazy. I am too old to have to live like this. And it wasn't fear. It was anger at that point. So when we talk about what we're transmitting to our sons, and we're all educators as well, when we're talking to our students about these things, we definitely have to be mindful of how we're communicating it. And I think each of you kind of hit on that point very well. So anything to add on that?
Well, for me, this is like, I've lived through it. I've lived through it personally, to where, I think I've lived through it. We've all lived through it personally. Mm-hmm. But I can only chime on a story. I have a friend, best friend of mine. We grew up in the same neighborhood. He's white, I'm black. And just recently, I've been in New York for the last 15 years, and I returned to the Washington, D.C. area. And I'm going to be frank with you. When I came home, we came home, and things were not exactly as I had my plan laid out. And my son he just started middle school, and he started with failing grades, and things were just, he was traumatized over the whole transition of the experience. And I fell into a series, I'm going to be real with you, a sense of almost depression. Not almost, it was depression. Mm-hmm. And we're all familiar with this. I'm a mental health guy. I should be able to talk about depression.
Absolutely.
And it must have lasted, I would say, damn near 60 days. And this friend of mine hasn't seen me in years. And I don't know how to deal with my son. I'm rethinking everything in my life. And I'm like, did I bring him here? Did I do the right thing? Did I do everything? Where did I go wrong? Mm-hmm. This friend who I've known all my life, grew up in the same neighborhood as I. He came over to me and he says something along the lines. He says, dude, where did your life go so wrong? He says, you and I, we grew up in the same neighborhood, same opportunity, same this, same that. And he started to compare his life with mine. And I can remember looking up to him, and I said, we grew up in the same neighborhood, right? He says, yeah. How many times? I said, how many times? And then this is just because we were having it's kind of an argument. How many times did the cops pull you and your brothers over going down Riverdale Road? How many anal cavity searches did you have? Because now this is coming back to me. He was asking why did I feel the way I did, or why was I looking at the world the way I did? And that's when the argument ensued. How many times were you anal cavity searched? How many times were you harassed and slammed onto the ground by cops, and then all of a sudden it started to come back to him that even though we lived on the same block with the same circumstances, our parents made the same amount of money, we grew up in two completely different worlds, and that was something that really was an eye opener for him, because he forgot that there's a difference growing up a young black man compared to a young white guy, and it was a realization that even though you come up with the same circumstance in the same economic kind of like background, they're two different worlds. Even though there's less than a block that divides you.
Brother Dave, this is Malik. I really appreciate you sharing that and your vulnerability there. And it really reminds me of what a good brother of mine said. His name is Khalif Williams, and he said that, the race issue is not the poverty issue in brown skin, right? so that when we look at and we control for socioeconomic status, that our brothers from all socioeconomic levels, classes, whatever, catch hell, right? Because we are men of color, we are black men, and yes, there are some mitigating factors, but what you were communicating to your friend is that the race issue is not the poverty issue in brown skin. We are not having a shared experience, in the same way. So, thank you for that, brother.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
Well, let me circle back to this movie, The Hate You Give. So it was presented by an organization out of Richmond, Youth for Preventing Violence. And at the end of it, they had a question and answer series. And there was an African-American woman who stood up, and she said, the responsibility, the fault lies with black men. They are responsible for their current situation. They don't seek jobs. They drop out of school. And, so my first response was this red flash. But as I've learned to do with most things, I just kind of sat with it. And I still continue to sit with it because there might be some truth to it. I'm not sure. I did have a problem with her saying in mixed company, I will admit that. But what do you say about that? How much responsibility do we bear for the lives of our young black males?
All and none.
Break that down, Dave.
I think we should have all the responsibility, and when I say all the responsibility for our young black males, it's our job to teach them, protect them, prepare them. But none of the responsibility to what was brought upon us. None. 400 years, no reparations. We didn't ask for this. The only crime that we've done to this country is build it. You understand? We've been victimized, and we're constantly victimized and given nothing back. Nothing. If you look to any other demographic, I'm sorry. Let me start. If you look towards the Jewish people, you look towards the reparations. If you look towards any other culture that has been victimized, the way our culture has been victimized, there's been something that's been given back. There's been nothing that's been given back. Nothing but smoking mirrors. I mean, for everything that's been given to us, we've had twice as much taken away.
Agreed.
So when it comes to, I think when it comes to white supremacy itself, we're born into this, and then you want to blame us for it's like the identity that they've given us. I mean, we come from kings and queens. When is that preached in schools? When is that given to us?
Hey, Dave, let me interrupt you real quick. Dr.
Sure.
Pitts informs me we have a call on the line. Dr. Pitts, do you want to bring the caller in?
I sure will. Caller 7709, welcome to House Talk. What is your question or comment for our panel? Caller? Good evening, caller.
Oh, hi. That's me. I didn't have a question. I was just listening in.
Okay. Thank you for joining us.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us.
All right. So Ted, did you want to add anything on what Dave said or this topic?
I will say that we do have responsibility when we with our African American males because if they're in our community and we see them doing things that are right, wrong, or indifferent, we should be encouraging them or discouraging them from doing those things. And so to some degree, we've allowed, I don't know, the way we were raised before. Now, I'll be 55 in May, so I'm just keeping it real. It wasn't some of the stuff I see just even on a commercial with how
we don't control that.
No, but the conversation
we don't control our media.
I agree.
But
when it comes out, I still have a responsibility in my home to say, what you just saw, let me explain to you what it really is about in my house.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
If we disagree with what they see. And so we just have gotten to the place where we have not responded to that stimuli, and we've just allowed it to just continue to permeate the kids' minds. And then when we get the act out or the results of that, then everybody seems to be shocked. But the problem is that we need to address things when we see them. And I think in that area we could have been a little bit more responsible with some of the things that we did see and allow to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But Doctor, we are the exception. We raise our children. My son is in my house. I'm a full-time single father. I put my life down to raise my son. But you got to realize, in a lot of ways, everybody on this line is the exception. When you go out there on the street corner, who's raising these children? Who is sitting there talking to these children? Who is in this home? Who's raising our children is media. But who controls the media? Who controls the music that they listen to? We don't.
And Brother Dave, I agree with you, right? But I think this is the fundamental problem with what we were pushing years ago, and that was each one teach one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And inherently, the challenge is beyond that. The math doesn't add up. We need each one, meaning us, to go get many, right? So if our children are lost, right, then it's our responsibility to go find them. So I hear what you're saying, right, that we take care of our part of the battlefield, i.e. in our own homes, but we need more of them, right? We need more of them because there's too few brothers that are emotionally available, physically available, right, to step up and do what they need to do. And I guess where I stand with this is that we own the problem, even though we send our boys, our children out into the world, and others are responsible for caring for them, right, in schools, in communities, elsewhere. But we own the problem, and we have the responsibility as men to step up to that. At the same time, though, what we've got to do is if we're raising a culture of entitled children, then we've got to teach them humility, right? But instead, often what we do is we complain about them instead of engaging with them. And I think that we will continue to lose them, and they won't want to be around us if primarily what we do is complain about them.
Now, Dr. Pitts, you and I have talked about this before, so I want to bring you in on this. Did you have anything to add on this?
Yeah, I do, because, piggybacking on what Malik just said, it reminds me of a statement that my son Andre made a couple of shows ago. And he said that that millennials don't feel that we hear them, right? So when I think about the responsibility of the black man, I think that it's a responsibility that's spread across the board, which will go into the next question, Brian, that you're going to bring up after the station break, is about that village piece, right? My dissertation research was on, the impact of father absence or presence from the life of his adolescent daughter. But when I look at that within the context of sons, I'm so blessed and thankful that my son's father understood the importance of being present, of being attached, of being actively involved in our son's life. And I honestly and truthfully believe that has made all the difference in the world in Andre's path of success and staying on a healthy path of success, because his father was actively involved in his life and instilled morals and values and ethics from a black man, one black man to his black son. I think that it's key.
Absolutely. And let me take a break. You're listening to House Talk with Dr. Lauren Pitts. And listeners, we definitely want to hear from you, so please join the conversation. To comment or ask a question for one of our panelists, please call 515-605-9744. That's 515-605-9744. Now, Lauren, as you referenced, we talk about it takes a village. The African proverb mistakenly attributed to Hillary Clinton. So I'll preface this by saying, crazy. I'll preface this by saying, as a former school counselor, and one of the few black male counselors, I was always put in a position of working with the black students, working with the black male, to the exclusion of everybody else. No one else was going to work with these young men as if they were some separate species. So when Lauren talks about it takes a village, shouldn't it really take a village? Should it be incumbent only upon black males to work with African-American males, young men? So I'm wondering, why do educators ignore the needs of African-American males? Is it fear-based or is something else at play here? No, I did not stump y'all.
No, I personally believe that it takes us to raise us. That normally, especially with education, feel much more comfortable.
Yeah, but Dave, the challenge is us is not in the schools. So if they're spending 8-9 hours a day in this place where we're not raising them in the schools, and that's where we're losing a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, if 85% of America's teachers are white women, right, and then we add black and brown women on top of that, then we're looking at about 95% of America's teachers are women, right?
Yes.
Then that means that the vast majority of our young brothers are not seeing a black male, a male period, but certainly not a black male or Latino male as their educator. The vast majority of their school career. And the problem that presents, even if we assume for a moment that all of these educators are good-natured, good-hearted, that they're working their deep-seated issues in terms of their implicit bias, what we see time and time again is that they misrecognize things with our boys, right? They see size and they misrecognize it as threat, right? They see energy and misrecognize it as hyperactivity. They see the search for dignity and misrecognize it as defiance. And so they punish it as such, right? So they see and interpret our boys as something to be controlled. And we know that black males, we're the quintessential other, that we are either feared or we are weaponized, right? We are good to run on your field. We're good to work at hard labor, but we are not to be seen as anything other than that. And that's the number one issue. And we know what the data tells us, that if a young brother has a black teacher, they are 4 times more likely to be in gifted and talented programs, right? So, I mean, time and time again, we're seeing the importance of black educators. But too few of us are selecting that part of the battlefield. And we need to encourage more and recruit more.
Absolutely. I will jump in on that. I had my best friend, he was probably about 20 years ago, he went into education. He became a math teacher, was at the high school level, and one of the challenges that he had, he loved what he did, but it couldn't, the economics of it couldn't maintain his lifestyle that he wanted to grow to, as he wanted to grow a family and all those things. He just didn't see economically, because his heart was in it. It wasn't that he was doing it for the money, but it did come down eventually to an economic decision as to why he left teaching to pursue some other career. And so I don't know where we can address that, because there are some gifted brothers that are entrepreneurs and people out there that have gifts to be able to teach. But then when they look at the economic side of that, they say, I have to do it a different way. And so they may help in other areas, but you're correct, they're not in the school. And I don't know where we can address that particular dynamic.
Agreed. And I think one of the things that has to be is because of the demographic that's in the school system. We talk about being culturally competent a lot in the school system, in education. I think that actually has to be put into practice, and it's not right now.
That's right.
So we're closing in on our wrap up time. So let me close with this. Dr. Muhammad, you've spoken in the past about there not being a magic bullet, a cure-all. But I'm going to ask you, Ted, and Dave to take a leap with me. If we could ice cube the world and make today a good day, month, year for African American males, what would that look like?
I can start and then we'll pass. For me, the thing that I'm continuing to focus on is that our brothers are well versed in the language of challenge with each other and challenge with our children. We're not well versed in the language of love. And so
Amen.
A starting place where I'm really beginning to double and triple and quadruple down is really teaching brothers the language of love with each other and with our children, so that we can begin to bring a dynamic balance to that fatherly guidance and challenge that we give them. They need to see the language of love coming from us.
I'm writing this down. I love that.
That's right.
And we have to have lines of communication open. We have to actually be able to listen, and not just listening to respond. We have to be able to listen to hear.
To hear, absolutely.
And our knowledge will be able to put us in a position where we can address their specific question. The other piece is, brothers, we got to start telling the truth. See, if your son has been putting you on a pedestal like you haven't done anything and you just look like this perfect guy and you got all the answers, man, you got to tell him, man, I used to be you. And I'm not just talking about our own children that are in our homes. I'm talking about the brothers in the street. I mean, they got to know that you are authentic. See, these young folks, man, they not passive and sitting there listening to what you say. They watching you and seeing what you're doing. And if you're just talking out the side of your mouth, they cutting you off quick. They just going to disconnect from you. And so when you start being real talk with them and having conversations like, yeah, man, that's funny, man, I used to do the same thing. Oh, you did? Yeah. But it's okay because now I can say that's where I was. But, yeah, now I'm a doctor. I got a Ph.D. I've been able to go to school and be able to make these types of things happen. So that's possible for you even when you're doing the same thing I used to do. And I think they'll respond better to that if we start being authentic and real about who we were to who we are now.
Absolutely. Authenticity. Absolutely.
That's it. I'm kind of stumped here, but
all right, go ahead, Dave.
You know, one thing that has changed, my life and my son's life, and I think that should be, taught and preached in our community, is mindfulness and meditation. And I feel that if this was more readily practiced in our community, instead of looking outside for the answers, I believe that we need to start to educate our children that the answers are within. And that if instead of looking, and 90 to 100% of everything that we're looking for, it's all internal. And I feel like in a world that is overrun with all this external stuff, that an education and mindfulness and meditation goes a long way.
And it really does.
It should be.
And before I send
it's definitely changed our lives.
Before I send this to Dr. Pitts, there is evidence at schools in San Francisco, all throughout the United States, where they're using meditation and mindfulness to reduce the suspension rates, to reduce the high attendance rate in schools. So I think each of you is definitely on to something. Dr. Pitts?
Yes, sir.
You want to add a few words for us, please?
Yes. You know what, gentlemen? Time flies. We are only down to a couple of minutes, so I'm just going to ask you very, very quickly, in 15 seconds or less, if you could each just give what you want our listeners to hear is your respective key takeaway, and then Brian will close us out for the night. We have a little under 4 minutes left to go, but it has been a powerful discussion, and my hope and prayer is that each of you will join the discussion in June when we come back to continue discussing these issues so important to men. So, gentlemen, very, very quickly, your key takeaways, and then I'll give it back to Brian to close us out.
All I want to say is a candle loses nothing by lighting another candle, and so we just need to start reaching out. And so as we do one at a time and collectively, we can win.
Well said.
What I'm thinking is that we've got the stuff, y'all. We got the stuff, right? And so what we've got to do is critically organize it. We have to build on it. We have to celebrate it. We have to go and get more. But we've got the answers, as Brother Dave keeps talking about, inside of our community. The solutions are here.
That's right. And I would just like to end this with what I just said earlier. All the answers are not outside. They're all within us. So as long as we keep looking inward inside of ourselves, I think those are going to be the keys to solving and healing not just ourselves, but our community at large.
Powerful theme. Powerful theme. Okay, man, that was an incredible conversation. Lauren, as you said, that time truly does fly by. I want to thank all of our listeners this evening for tuning in. I want to thank our amazing panelists, very insightful, solution-focused. Please join Dr. Pitts next week as she launches into April with more great topics. And again, those solution-focused strategies and men. In the month of June, we'll pick up with the discussion delving even deeper into opportunities and challenges important to men. Thank you very much, and good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening and welcome to House Talk with Dr. Lauren Pitts. I am your host, Dr. Lauren Pitts, and I'm honored to be joined by my very special guest co-host tonight, Dr. Brian Maiden. Dr. Maiden, it's great to have you with us tonight to facilitate this powerful discussion about issues of concern to men.
Thank you, Dr. Pitts. It is a pleasure to be here. I'm in New Orleans for the American Counselor Association conference, but there's no other place I'd rather be. Now, can